Om Matrudevo Bhava, Pitrudevo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava. Om Sri Ganapati Satchidananda Sadgurubhyo Namaha. Om Sri Ganeshaya Namaha. Sri Saraswatyai Namaha. Sri Padavallabha Narasimha Saraswati. Sri Guru Dattatreya Namaha. Om Namo Hanumate Namaha. Dear fellow spiritual seekers, my humble pranams to all of you. In the last lecture, we discussed the first stanza of Bhaja Govinda. The first stanza taught about ignorance, meaning avidya. To escape from this total ignorance, this avidya, Sri Adi Shankaracharya, he suggested Bhagavad Kirtana. That's Nama Sankirtana. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Govindam, Bhaja Mudhamate. Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam, Bhaja Govindam. So he talked about Nama Sankirtana and its importance of that. Singing, reciting the glory of Lord Govinda. Singing the names of the Lord as a remedy to get out of this ignorance, of this total, avidya. Now, in the second stanza, Sri Shankara, he warns us, he alerts us, and he's really, he's giving us a grave warning against entertaining excessive desires and the needs, what we call as a kama, K-A-M-A. Kama is usually associated with sensual pleasures. But kama truly is anything that's a desire, anything that's excessive desire, excessive need, over, about, and beyond what we need. Okay, that's called kama. So the necessity of controlling the mind is emphasized as well in the second stanza, and that's what we are going to talk about tonight. See, Shankara goes further to warn us against the impediments, against the obstacles in the path of God realization. Namely, there are three things here, three impediments, three roadblocks, if you will, and those are called Ishanatraya or Ishanatrayam. One is Dhaneshana, one is Dareshana, the other one is Putreshana. Dhaneshana means desire for wealth. Dareshana, the desire for a woman or wife. And Putreshana, the desire for children. These three are called the Ishanatraya. Now, we gracefully enter into the second stanza of Sri Shankara Bhagavat Padacharya. Mudhajahi dhanagam trushnam, Mudhajahi dhanagam trushnam, Kuru sadbuddhim manasi vitrushnam. Kuru sadbuddhim manasi vitrushnam. Yallabhase nija karmopatam. Yallabhase nija karmopatam. Vittam tena vinodaya chittam. Vittam tena vinodaya chittam. Mudha jehi dhanagama trushnam. Mudha. We talked about Mudha in the first shloka. So Shankara is calling Mudha, meaning, oh fool, oh totally ignorant, oh incompetent, ignorant. You are truly ignorant of the supreme truth, of the reality. Jahihi, Mudha, oh fool, Jahihi, win over, conquer, win over. Win over what? The thirst for the inflow of wealth. Dhana, agama, trushnam. Agama is to come. The inflow of dhana, the wealth, trushnam, the desire for that. So, what Shankara is saying here is, O Mudha, Jahihi Dhana Agama Trushnam. Win over and conquer the thirst for the inflow of wealth. Kuru Sadbuddhim Manasi Vitrushnam. Kuru Sadbuddhim. Kuru. Cultivate it. Develop. What is that he's talking about? What to develop and what is it that he wants us to cultivate? Manasi vitrushnam kuru sadbuddhim. So develop, cultivate a noble intellect. Sadbuddhi. Develop that, cultivate that. As well as manasi vitrushnam. And then the mind should be totally detached, should be totally free of any form of changes, any transformations, any changes in the mind, any vikara. Vikara is a change, marpu, parinama. So he's asking us to keep the mind detached and totally free of any form of changes, any vikara. So this should be a mind free from desires. So vitrushnam, trushnam is a desire. Vitrushnam is the mind that is devoid of any desire. So he says, fill the mind devoid of all the desire with, what do you fill it with? You fill it with the real. You fill it with the absolute. You fill it with the supreme truth. And Shankara says, rejoice your mind. Vinodaya chittam. Rejoice your mind. Keep the mind content with whatever, with that wealth which is acquired. Yalabhase, yat labhase, that which is acquired with your own effort. It's not something that is stolen. This is not something that we earn in an adharmic way, in a non-dharmic way. So the money, the wealth should be acquired, the property, the wealth should be acquired in a just way, in a dharmic way. So, yallabhase nija karmopatam. So enjoy that. Be content with that wealth which is acquired with your own effort or with your own karma or for your karma. We know, we may not believe it, but we know that wealth usually accrues to a person based upon our past actions, from our previous births, the kind of deeds that we did in the previous births. So the wealth is prescribed for us based upon our performance in the past births. So be content with what is earned. Whatever is destined for you, you will get it, no matter what, wherever you are, whether you do something or not, you will get it. First of all, we have to guard ourselves against dhaneshana, dhana ishana, dhaneshana, or the desire for wealth, and the excessive desire for wealth. See, Shankara is preaching us to renounce, to give away not the wealth. I repeat, Shankara is not preaching us to give away the wealth, but he is asking us to give away, throw away the desire for it. So it is the vancha, it is the desire that binds the man. And it is not the vishaya, it is not the object at all. So it's the desire that needs to be given away, not the wealth. There are many subhashitas, or wise sayings about desire. And I will review a few of them tonight here, with you. Ashaya bajjate lokah karmana bahuchintaya. Ashaya bajjate lokah karmana bahuchintaya. The world is bound by desire, fate, and much thinking. The second subhashita that comes to my mind is Ashavadhim ko gataha. Ashavadhim ko gataha. Do you know anyone, anywhere, that had reached the limit of his desire and that says, no, I don't need any more? That does not happen. There is none. The third one is Asha cha paramam dukkham niracha paramam sukham. Asha cha paramam dukkham niracha paramam sukham. Asha mida asha. So asha upon asha, that is paramam dukkham. So desire upon desire upon desire upon desire upon desire, that causes the greatest sorrow. So contentment is the greatest happiness. Be content. In Kavita Ratnakaram, there's an excellent shloka, a subhashita. And let me share that with you respectfully. Mata nindati nabhinandati pita bhrata na sambhashate. Mata nindati nabhinandati pita bhrata na sambhashate. Bhrutya kupyati nanu gacchati sutaha kanta chana lingate. Bhrutya kupyati nanu gacchati sutaha kanta chana lingate. Ardha prardhana shankaya na kurute pyala pamatram suhrutu. Ardha prardhana shankaya na kurute pyala pamatram suhrutu. Tasmat naidikamarthamarjaya sakhe ardhena sarve vachaha. There is a patantara, or there is a second version for the last pada of the last sentence of this poem or of this shloka. That says, Tasmat ardhamuparjaya shrunu sakhe cha ardhena sarve vachaha. O sakhe, my dear friends, Mata nindati na bhinandati pita bhrata na sambhashate. If you have no money, what happens? Mata nindati, mother rebukes. Mother blames the son for not having money, for not earning wealth. Na abhinandati pita, na abhinandati pita. Father will be displeased as well. father will not praise. He will not be happy. Bhrata na sambhashate. If you don't have money, your brothers, they won't speak with you either. Bhrutya kupyati. Even the servants at home, when you try to assign them a certain simple task, such as, hey, can you get me a glass of water? Or can you get me that bag over here? If you ask somebody, a maid or a servant, they would not be happy either. They would be angry at you. Why? This guy does not even give me a penny or a rupee or something. Am I just living for this guy? Come on, I'm not going to do that. So that's what even the servants would say. Servants will be unhappy. They will be angry. Nanu gacchati sutaha. And if you say something to your son, your children, sons won't follow your instructions because you have become cheaper, for them as well. Not only that, your beloved wife, Kanta chana lingate, Kanta cha na alingate. Wife will not even embrace. She will not even embrace you if you don't have money, if you don't earn money. In addition to that, further to that, ardha pradhana shankaya, assuming you might ask for some money, na kurute pyala pamatram suhrutu, suspecting that you may ask for a loan. Hey, can you adjust 100 rupees or something like that for me? I urgently need something. So if your friend comes across you in the street, he would take a different pathway and he will get out of your vision. He won't even care for you. He will try to hide away from you, assuming because you're not earning that you may ask for some money. So suspecting that you may ask for a loan, your best friends will stop greeting. So what is he says? What is he saying? Shankara? Or, whoever in this Subhashita, Tasmat Nangitikam Arthamajaya. That's why earn the money. Earning money is important. What is not important, what is less important, what actually is an evil in this case, is the desire for it. So this Subhashita says, earn money in a judicious way, in a legal way, in a dharmic way, that do not conflict with our own dharma, swadharma. And then at the very end, the Subhashita says, Ardhe na sarve vacha. With money, everything can be brought under control, kept under control. That's why one should engage in earning money. However, within the limitations imposed by dharma, within the limitations and the specifications of niti and dharma. Bhagavad Gita explains the dangers of desire, kama. And what does it say in the second chapter, in the 62nd, I believe, is the shloka. Sangat sanjayate kamaha, kamat krodho bhijayate. Kamat krodho bhijayate. Let us discuss what the stanza say. Jhayato vishayan pumsaha sangateshu pajayate. Jhayato vishayan pumsaha sangateshu pajayate. Sangat samjayate kamaha kama krodho bhijayate. Kamat krodhaha abhijayate. Jhayato vishayan pumsaha. Jhayataha, meaning contemplating upon, vishayan, the sense objects. So you contemplate upon, you think upon, you ponder upon some sense object. pumsaha, of a person, sangaha, attachment, teshu upajayate, sangaha, attachment, teshu, to them, to those objects, upajayate, arises. What is that that's arising? It is the sangha, it is the bond, it is the link, it is the attachment that arises if we ponder upon and contemplate upon the sense objects. It is the attachment that builds up. The attachment arises. Now, then what happens? As a sequence of that, as a consequence of that, sangha samjayate kamaha. From that attachment, it develops a kama, desire. And from that, what happens? It's a sequence of reaction here. A is going to B is going to C. So, kama, krodho bijayate, kama. From that desire, what happened? Krodha abhijayate, anger arises, and anger is born. Anger, greed, and lust. Anger, greed, and lust. These three are considered in the Vedic scriptures as manasa rogas. These are the mental diseases. We are all very, very well aware of the diseases of the body. Even a single bodily ailment, a very simple bodily ailment, and a single bodily ailment, it has the power to make us, a whole day, or a whole week, or a whole month, or a whole year miserable. But we do not realize that we are being continuously tormented by many, many mental ailments. And because we don't recognize these three, the lust, the anger, the greed, these as mental diseases, we don't agree these are diseases of the mind. We don't try to cure them because in the first place, we don't consider them as diseases. So we don't even make an effort to cure them. In this and the next verse, Krishna has given perfect and penetrating insight into the inner workings of the mind, how the mind functions, the modus operandi of the mind. Krishna explains that when we repeatedly contemplate, when we constantly keep thinking about that there is a happiness in some object, whatever that may be, the mind becomes attached to it. If you think, yeah, it would be nice if I have it, that'd be great, I'd be so happy with that. Bingo. You have an impression created. The mind becomes attached to it. Let's consider a very simple example to digest. You have a school, and there's a classroom in a school. And there are a number of boys, a number of girls, and they interact very innocuously, okay, very naively with each other. One day, a boy notices something about a girl. I start thinking, hey, I would be extremely happy if this girl were mine. Oh, she's so cute, she's so beautiful. Now, as he constantly keeps thinking about this in his mind becomes attached to her. And he's unable to study, he's unable to concentrate, focus. He can't do that. His mind repeatedly goes to her. And why is he ruining his studies? Because of her. Because he repeatedly thought that there was a happiness in this girl. And so his mind became attached to her. Now, attachment seems quite innocuous by itself. It's not dangerous. But the problem is, from that attachment comes desire. If one is attached to drinks, alcohol, the desire for drinks comes repeatedly to the mind. If one is attached to tobacco, cigarettes, the thoughts of the pleasure of smoking cigarettes repeatedly flow in the mind, creating a craving for those cigarettes. In this way, attachment leads to desire. Okay, now there is an attachment. Now, that attachment led to desire. Once desire develops, now what happens? It gives birth to two more twin problems. One is greed, the other is anger. Greed comes from the fulfillment of desire. If I can address whatever my needs are, my desires are, I become greedier and greedier, and I more greedier. And if you satisfy the desire, it leads to greed. Therefore, desire is never eliminated by satiating it. That's why in the beginning of this lecture, we said, well, is there anyone anywhere in the universe that you know who had reached the pinnacle of the level of desire or the number of desire? Nobody has reached the upper limit yet. Bhagavatam, it has a beautiful quote. Yat prudhivyam vrihiyavam hiranyam pashavastriyaha. Yat prudhivyam vrihiyavam hiranyam pashavastriyaha. Naduhyanti manapritim pumsaha kamahatashyate. If one person were to get all the wealth in the world, one person, if he gets all the wealth in the world, all the luxuries in the world, and all the sensual pleasures and the objects in the world, that person's desire would still not be satiated. It would still not be satisfied. Therefore, knowing it to be the cause of misery, an intelligent individual should renounce desire, get rid of the desire. That's the worst one. On the flip side, however, what happens? If the fulfillment of the desire is obstructed, if you kill the desire, you obstruct the desire, what happens? It gives rise to anger because you were unable or somebody stopped you from getting what you wanted. So the anger builds up. Bear in mind that anger, it does not arise by itself. Anger has a root cause where it comes from. So it's born from obstruction, stopping or killing of a desire. And the desire, it arises from, we said, from attachment. And attachment comes from contemplation, pondering upon the sense objects. So in this manner, we say the simple act of contemplating upon the pleasures and sense objects leads to downward spiraling to the twin diseases of greed and anger. In the next shloka, in the Bhagavad Gita, the 2-63, Krishna continues the chain further down. And what happened? The anatomy of the anger has been described in that. And he explained the consequences of anger. But it is irrelevant for our discussion at this time because we're dealing with the desire. So it's very important to ensure that the mind is not stained by desires. People erroneously, mistakenly, they believe that fulfilling the desires in the mind is the best way to drive off, to kick off that need and the desire away from the mind. So if I get a desire, I take care of it. And if I think, oh, that's out of my mind, and my mind is clear, no, next desire comes in. And the next one comes in. So Bhagavad Gita, however, compares this desire, this kama, to Agni, to fire. Offering the ghee, if you offer ghee to fire, what happens? It only increases the strength of the flames in the holy fire, in the homa. Can we stop the homa? Can we stop the fire by feeding it ghee? No way. Similarly, likewise, fulfilling of a desire, it only multiplies the craving towards it. So one truly desires of putting out the flames, what should you do? Don't pour ghee on it, pour water on it instead. What's the use of supplying it with the ghee, hoping that the flames will subside? This book, this Bhajagovinda, or this is also called Moha Mudgara. This is not some preaching meant only for the saints, sannyasis, or pariprajakas, or very knowledgeable persons who are on the path of the absolute or on the supreme. It's not really meant for them. This holy text of Mohamudgara or Bhajagovindam, it is equally important for people of all castes, first of all, and all communities, regardless of their social status and gender. For this simple reason, Shankaracharya, he does not declare that earning money itself is bad. He never said earning money is bad. He instead stated that every being has some merits and demerit, punya and papa, that we are brought with us forward from an earlier birth. When we took the form of a human, we relocated from some place. So when we relocated to the Earth, planet Earth, we brought our luggage, we brought our suitcases, and we filled all those suitcases. We have different types of karma. In your suitcase, you go someplace and I go someplace. So we both go to Orlando. My suitcase may have different things than your suitcase. You have packed something differently than I did. In the same way, when we took human birth, we brought along with us our own karmas from the previous birth. So earning of the money on this plan then is totally dependent on the merit and the demerit. So this is our performance index that have thus been brought forward from the previous births. Therefore, Sri Shankara preaches that every individual should be content with whatever is earned or obtained by him or her with his efforts in this world in a just way, in a dharmic way. A wise man who is not unduly attached or bonded or linked to the world saves himself from sorrow. But those who are infatuated are obsessed by the worldly things and by the world. And those who are ensnared, what I mean by ensnared is entrapped. So if somebody is trapped by the world and the worldly objects, they are going to be miserable. The uses of fire, you can use the fire for many reasons. But what happens if you try to embrace fire? What will be the consequence of that? So fire is needed, wealth is needed. Just the way we don't embrace fire, we don't embrace wealth either. Fire or any object for that matter, is not the cause of joy or sorrow. It's our relationship with that object that causes that. If I'm able to discipline my mind, and if I'm able to control or regulate my relationship with the people and objects around me, then I would be able to lead and live a very, very blissful life, very peaceful life. Otherwise, we are bound to suffer immense agony beyond the shadow of a doubt. There's no question about it. It is the same way with the wealth. Money is neither good nor evil, Shankara says. It depends on man's attitude towards the money. History tells us about many such men who did not hesitate to jail their parents, to imprison their parents, kill their brothers for the sake of wealth. History also recorded lives of men who gave away their wealth in charity for building temples and other religious and social purposes. Some people lacking in wisdom, they believe that wealth is vicious and it should therefore be forsaken and be given. Forget about money. Economists don't agree with that. Further, needless to say, but I would say it anyway, Shankara, Adi Shankara, who was quite adept at all Shastras, he does not hold the view that money is vicious. He does not. He's only condemning excessive desires. Trishna, or desire, is most dreadful. That's what he is driving home. That's the point. Bhogana bhukta vayameva bhukta trishna na jirna vayameva jirna bhogana bhukta vayameva bhukta trishna na jirna vayameva jirna trishna na jirna vayameva jirna. As age advances, we are getting older. So as our age advances, what happens to man's vitality? The vitality declines. They're in an inverse relationship. The age goes up, the vitality goes down. So when he's younger, the vitality is up. So there is a built-in inverse relationship between the two. As age advances, man's vitality declines, but his desire grows like the new moon. Right? It goes and increases to a full moon level. That's how the desire grows, regardless of the age. So it's independent. That function is independent of age. So it's a vain attempt. It's a useless effort to quench Trishna. So giving it to it or yielding to it, it's like adding fuel to the fire. Trishna drives us away from godliness. It does not bring us close to God. It takes us away and away and away from godliness. Leaves no trace of shanti or peace in our heart. It is the chief instigator. It's the chief culprit of all our wrong deeds and inhuman behavior. That desire. It follows us like shadow all our lives. It is the maker of corrupt. It is truly the maker of the corrupt politicians or black marketeers who ruin the happiness of other people and plunge everybody else's future into darkness. Desire alone is the cause of all atrocities and crimes committed, thereby bringing destruction upon mankind. A slave to the desires, a human being wanders through the world like one possessed. ఒక దయ్యం పట్టినట్టు వాడు లాగాలన్నమాట. ఒక పిశాచం, ఒక దయ్యం పట్టినట్టుగా. So if somebody is a slave to the desires, so he or she behaves like someone that's possessed by a devil. That's why, though the individual is a winner or a victor of the world, and it reaches the pinnacle of scientific research and discovery, man is a totally vanquished from within. George Bernard Shaw, he brings this point home very nicely and very, very eloquently. He says, man can live high in the air and dive deep into the waters, but he is unable to live on earth. Man can live high in the air and dive deep into the waters, but he is unable to live on earth. Sarva samsara dukkhanam trusnaika dirgha dukkhada antapurastham apiya yojayatyati sankate. Sarva samsara dukkhanam trusnaika dirgha dukkhada antapurasthamapiya yojayatyati sankate. So beautifully says Rama in Ramayana. The agony and sorrow caused by the desire by Krishna, it is unbearable, Rama says. Even kings living in royal palaces, they're dragged by desire and they're drowned in sorrow. Although one is born very, very, very wealthy, the evil desire within him makes him a miser, leading a very, very, very rich life. If and when you have Krishna, meaning an unbridled passion, an unbridled desire within you, let it not surge into the outer world, but rather turn it within towards the Lord and yearn for him. Otherwise, what happens? You will be bound by Krishna, by desire, and you're flung into the abyss, a bottomless pit, a gulf of ignorance. Shankara says in this second stanza, Kuru sadbuddhim manasi vitrushna. Manasi vitrushna means mind free from desire, detached mind. See, Shankara, he impels us to give up passion and desires. A mind whose passions are subdued, desires are conquered, that abode of peace, adi prashanta nilayam. That is a shanti dhama, shanti nilaya. But the house without light is handy for thieves. So if you have a dark house, nobody lives there, or if it's a dark house, thieves would get in. That would be a very nice, handy home for them to rob. In the same way, avoid mind of vices. So Shankara says our work does not end with more explosion of the desire. Just get rid of the desire. It does not end there. They have to be replaced by what? By Brahma Bhavana, by Paramatma Chintana, or meditation on the absolute and the eternal. Kuru Sadbuddhim, it means developing noble thoughts and noble intellect. Sri Shankara lays great emphasis on the need for contentment, for happiness. Satisfaction or contentment alone leads to peace, shanti. The wise people are content with what they have, but they know that happiness is true wealth. Santosham paramam dhanam, proclaim the Shastras. Now, one may wonder as to how he can live without the desire for wealth. Shankara shows the way, and Shankara says, be content with what you get as a reward for your actions or karma. Entire universe is ruled by the simple law of cause and effect. The sufferings that we undergo now They are the result of our own actions. Those are self-inflicted injuries. But karma is inanimate. It's jada, meaning it's inert. It's like a rock, like a stone. It's a lifeless object, karma. Therefore, karma itself does not yield. It cannot yield fruits on its own. Who then is the giver? None other than the omnipresent and the omniscient God. He is the giver of our life, our joys and sorrows. His word prevails. His law is binding. He reigns supreme over the universe. Having dwelt upon Dhaneshana, Sri Shankara goes on to warn us against the next deadly obstacle and impediment in the path of spiritual progress, the Adhyatmika Pragati Padham, that is a kama. So that concludes my interpretation and the commentary on shloka number 2. So, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Namaste.
Namaste. जय हनुमान ज्ञान गुण सागर जय कपीश तिहु लोक उजागर रामदूत अतुलित बल धामा अंजनी पुत्र पवन सुत नामा महावीर विक्रम भजरंगी कुमति निवार सुमति के संगी कंचन वरन विराज सुबेसा कानन कुंडल कुंचित केसा हाथ वज्र और ध्वजा विराजे कांधे मूंज जनेऊ साजे शंकर सुवन केसरी नंदन तेज प्रताप महाजगवंदन विद्यावान गुणी अति चातुर राम काज करिबे को आतुर प्रभु चरित्र सुनिबे को रसिया राम लखन सीता मन बसिया सूक्ष्म रूप धरि सियहि दिखावा विकट रूप धरि लंक जरावा भीम रूप धरि असुर संहारे रामचंद्र के काज समारे लाय संजीवन लखन जियाये श्री रघुवीर हर्षि उर लाये रघुपति कीन्ही बहुत बड़ाई तुम मम प्रिय भरतहि सम भाई सहस बदन तुम रोजस गावे अस कहि श्रीपति कंठ लगावे सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीसा नारद सारद सहित अहिसा यम कुबेर दिगपाल जहाते कवि कोविद कहि सके कहाते तुम उपकार सुग्रीवहि कीन्हा राम मिलाये राजपद दीना तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण माना लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जाना युग सहस्र योजन पर भानु लील्योताहि मधुर फल जानु प्रभु मुद्रिका मेलि मुख माहि जलधि लांघि गए अचिरज लाहि दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते सुगम अनुग्रह तुम रे तेते राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे होत न आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे सब सुख लहे तुम्हारी सरना तुम रक्षक काहू को डरना आपन तेज समारो आपे, तीनों लोक हाथ कांपे, भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे, नासै रोग हरे सब पीरा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीरा, संकट से हनुमान छुड़ावे, मन क्रम बचन ध्यान जो लावे, सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साजा, और मनोरथ जो कोई ला, और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोई अमित जीवन फल पावे, चारों युग परताप तुम्हारा, है प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियारा, साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे, अष्ट सिद्धि नव निधि के दाता, असबर दीन जानकी माता, राम रसायन तुमरे पासा, सदा रहो रघुपति के दासा, तुमरे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे, अंत काल रघुवर पुर जाई, जहाँ जन्म हरि भक्त कहाई, और देवता चित्त न धरई, हनुमत से सर्व सुख करई, संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमिरे हनुमत बलबीरा, जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, कृपा करहु गुरुदेव की नाई, जो सत बार पाठ कर कोई, छूट ही बंधि महासुख होई, जो यह पढ़े हनुमान चालीसा, होय सिद्धि साखी गौरी सा, तुलसीदास सदा हरि चेरा, कीजे नाथ हृदय महडेरा, पवन तनय संकट हरण, मंगल मूर्ति रूप, राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसहु सुर भूप, हृदय बसहु सुर भूप. Thank you. Om Asato Ma Sadgamaya, Tamaso Ma Jyotirgamaya, Mrityorma Amritangamaya. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. Thank you.
Namaste. Are there any questions or comments by anyone? Yeah, just here there is a comment by Lakshmi Garu saying, great session. Thank you, Guru Garu, for another great session. And what an expounding talk and explanation on Trishna and Vitrishna, Asa, Kama, and Krodha, and your commentary on the 62nd and 63rd verse from second chapter is so marvelous. Thank you. Thank you for bringing in Bhagavad Gita also into this great talk. Thank you.
Thank you.
If I may share this beautiful verse, one added subhashita. You probably know this already, Guru Garu. Asa nama manushyanam kachid ascharya shrinkhala. Baddhayaya pradhavanti muktaha tishtanti panguvat. Asa nama manushyanam kachid ascharya shrinkhala. Baddhayaya pradhavanti muktaha tishtanti panguvat. So the
Thank
thing called Asha is an amazing chain for men, or the shackles for men, tied with which men run and released from which men stand rooted as if a limb. Thank you.
It's very nice. I'm glad that you added this one, and this is wonderful.
Thank you. And the very first Subhashita you said, can you please give me the reference? It's like from the Pancha Ratnas. Ashaya Badhyate Lokaha. Is it from Vedanta Dindima or is it from?
I think it is actually, what I did, I had a link that I saved on
Okay.
Sanskrit proverbs, Sukti Muktavali, Sanskrit proverbs, where there are a bunch of these things. So I have handpicked, for the sake of this presentation, whichever, which I thought maybe as a prototype,
Yes.
take 2 or 3 of them, not to fill up the whole hour with those things.
Okay.
So I would just taken 2 or 3 of them, but I can send you the link that
please
links to you.
Please.
I will do that.
Yes, thank you, and thank you so much. And then there is
yeah. Let me
thank
add
you so
one.
much.
Let me
Yes,
add
sir.
one additional comment here, if you have a couple of minutes. So when we talk about desires, let's talk about happiness. The desires, we assume that desires, once they are satisfied, we attain happiness. So mathematically speaking, then, there's a happiness index, H.I., if you want to call it for simplicity. So that H.I., that happiness index, is equal to, the whole Vedanta can be summarized in this one. It is the number of desires that we entertain, a number of desires fulfilled, divided by the total number of desires that we entertain. For example, in the denominator, where I say my total number of desires that are entertained ever, if that's 1, and the numerator is the number of desires that I fulfilled. If I fulfill that one desire, and if I only had one desire, 1/1, so that my happiness index becomes indeed 1, a quotient of 1, so that's 100%. So I am 100% happy. Now, go to the denominator again, my desires increase. So if I have 10 desires in the denominator, that means now I have total number of desire. So my first desire is to be able to get a first rank in my university. Okay, that's done, accomplished. Okay, go to the US, my next new desire. Fine, I get that. Then what? The desires keep on increasing. I need to get a beautiful wife. I need to have nice children. I need to have something else. I need to become a senior vice president in an organization. So these desires, they keep on going and going and going. So if I have 10 desires in the bottom, in the denominator, if I satisfy all 10, fine, it's 100%, I'm happy. But the denominator is growing, right? The denominator does not stay there. The number of desires keep on increasing. So once the number of desires become 10, go to 20, to 100, to 1,000, our ability to satisfy decreases. Well, we only do 80 of them or 90 of them out of 100, 60, 50. So we are approaching that. So mathematically, you say, anything divided by infinity is 0, or it is indeterminate. That's what mathematics is saying. So if the bottom line is, if our desires are approaching the infinity, our happiness index, that HI, approaches 0, because anything divided by infinity is near 0. So we can never satisfy that. But if we have fewer desires in the denominator, and then we can satisfy all of those and satiate those things, our happiness index goes up. So in total, in totality, or in summation, then The mantra for happiness lives in the denominator of this equation, that HI, or happiness index, is equal to the number of desires fulfilled divided by the total number of desires we ever entertained. And the mantra for happiness lives in the denominator in controlling the desires. And thank you. That's all I wanted to add.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much. A mantra for life. Thank you. And Shubharatri, everyone. Look forward to next class.
Just one second here. Dr. Prasad Garu, Kashinathan Varu, do you have any comments? You're on mute.
I have no comments, sir. I'm enjoying. I'm enjoying, that's all. No comments.
Thank you,
You
sir.
have said a wonderful mantra, and it's really, that's true. I only add to that is the the ratio of the desires fulfilled by the total number of desires. As the number of desires go to infinity, your happiness index is 0. That's a wonderful way of putting it. Swami Chinmayanandaji Maharaj also has resonated with that idea years back in Bhaja Govinda.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thank you. Mantra for life. Thank you, sir. Shubharatri.
Yeah, thank you and good night.